let's talk about AI and creativity. It's a huge topic, right? The big question on everyone's mind is AI a threat to artists and designers, or is it maybe the best creative partner we've ever had? Well, we're going to dig into a really cool study that actually put this to the test.
So let's just cut to the chase. Can AI make you more creative? Researchers wanted a real answer, so they set up this amazing experiment to see what happens when you put the old-school way of designing up against a brand new process where humans and AI are basically a team.
First, you got to understand the starting point. The traditional creative process, it can be a grind. It's often slow, you go through endless revisions, and honestly, a lot of times, the final result really depends on how many years of experience the designer has under their belt.
Okay, so to tackle those challenges, these researchers came up with a totally new playbook. It's a structured process built from the ground up, specifically for a human and an AI to work together to create together.
They gave it a fancy name, the Human-AI Co-Creative Design Process, or HAI-CDP. But here's the part that really matters. This isn't about just using AI like you'd use Photoshop. It's about treating AI as a real creative partner, one that's woven into every single part of the creative journey.
So how's it work? Well, they broke it down into 4 simple phases. You start with concept definition, using something like ChatGPT to just brainstorm and figure out what you're even doing. Then you move to visual exploration, using tools like Midjourney to pump out tons of different sketches. After that, you've got design development, where you take the best of those ideas and start refining them. And finally, implementation, where you turn that concept into a finished product. And the whole time, the designer is the one in the driver's seat, making all the key decisions.
All right, now this is where it gets really fun. The researchers basically set up the ultimate design showdown. They took this new AI-assisted process and put it in a head-to-head competition with the traditional way of doing things. And to make it even more interesting, they used both total novices and seasoned pros.
So what was the task? All 42 designers were given the exact same challenge: design a character concept for mechanical beings of a future world. It's a great prompt, right? It gives you some guardrails, but it's also wide open for some really wild creativity. Here's how they set up the experiment. They had 4 groups. You had your novices, these were second-year students, one group using the old method, one group using the new AI process, and then they did the exact same thing with the pros, designers with over 3 years of experience. This setup is brilliant because it lets you see not just what the AI does, but also how experience plays into it.
So, you might be wondering, how in the world do you measure creativity? Well, the researchers brought in a panel of industry experts to score everything. They looked at 4 things. Novelty, basically how unique and original the ideas were. Quality, like did it actually fulfill the assignment. Refinement, how polished and detailed was the final work. And finally, just the raw number of ideas each person came up with. Okay, the experiment is done, the grades are in, let's get to the results, because this is where we see a really surprising twist in how AI actually helps people, and it's not what you might expect.
And here's the big headline. Using the AI-assisted process boosted creative performance for everybody. It didn't matter if you were a rookie or a veteran, teaming up with AI led to better work. But, and this is a huge but, the way it helped them was completely different.
So, let's look at the novices first. For them, the AI was like a turbocharger for just coming up with ideas. Look at that jump. They went from generating less than 2 ideas on average to more than 3. For anyone who's ever stared at a blank page, you know how huge that is.
And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from one of the novice designers says it all. At the beginning, I had no direction at all. It was ChatGPT that helped me build a background and key concepts. See? The AI wasn't just a tool. For them, it was the spark that got the whole engine running.
But now, look at the experienced designers. It's a totally different story. They didn't really need help with ideas. Where AI made a massive difference for them was in the quality and refinement of their work. Look at that quality score just skyrocket. That's an incredible leap.
This quote from one of the experts just nails the difference. They said, "I used AI primarily to accelerate the visualization of compositional ideas, not to generate design solutions for me. I rely more on my own judgment." For them, AI was like having a super fast assistant to handle the tedious stuff, which freed them up to focus on the truly creative parts.
So the creative co-pilot analogy is just perfect here. For the novices, the AI co-pilot helps with takeoff, getting them off the ground and pointing them in the right direction. But for the experts, the co-pilot is handling all the boring system checks, which frees up the master pilot to pull off these amazing, complex creative stunts.
So it's pretty clear AI is a powerful partner, but that leads to the million-dollar question. Does it just level the playing field completely? Well, what the study shows is that while AI definitely lowers the barrier to entry, it doesn't automatically turn you into a master. Experience is still king.
So, here's the real question. Did AI close that performance gap between the students and the professionals? You might think it would, right? But the answer is, nope, not quite. In fact, it did something way more interesting.
Okay, get ready for this, because it's the most surprising finding in the whole study. When it came to novelty, how original the ideas were, the gap between the pros and the novices didn't just stay the same. It actually got wider by 55% when they both used AI. The same tool that made novices more productive made experts even more unique. And that right there brings us to the ultimate takeaway. AI is this incredible force that lowers the barrier to creative work. It makes it easier for anyone to get started, to make cool stuff. But your experience, your taste, your judgment, your unique vision, that's what's going to determine the absolute heights you can reach. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. If AI really is the new co-pilot, it's not flying the plane. The human is still the captain. So the only real question left is, where are we going to decide to steer this thing next?